GR-78, part 2 of the restoration. I actually bought 3 parts units that were on eBay, and out of the 4 units in all that I have 2 working and 2 that I'm still working on. But I thought I would show you exactly what I found and exactly what I have done to improve the old classic. Well, at least improve from my point of view. The first thing, of course, is to replace the old power system that was in it. I took out the AC transformer, the AC input stuff, the AC input connector, and the DC connector. They were all obsolete. And I made a little LM317 adapter board that takes 12 volts and converts it exactly to 9.6. Why 12 volts? Because I can get these little wall warts that put out 12 volts. And it's usually better to use a linear one for an AM tuner, but I decided that I'd try out these switching ones, and I don't have a problem. The filtering that I put on this little board consists of 1,000 microfarad, 1 millihenry, and another 1,000 microfarad pi filter, and that gets rid of all hash coming from the wall wart. Another thing that I did is add an RCA phono input type of antenna connector, which works out real well because I'm using a McKay Dymac active antenna, and it has an RCA output. I find these yellow composite video cables to be superior to the audio patch cables because they don't attenuate the signal as much, but it's not enough difference to really matter. Of course, I got rid of the obsolete capacitors. I have a whole bag of these from the 4 different parts units. Believe me, after testing a handful of them, they needed to come out. They were all pretty bad, the ones that I tested. Of course, in the name of originality, I keep them just so I can sell them with the receiver if somebody wants something original at some time. I have a whole baggie full of old light bulbs, diodes, terminal blocks, transformers, and everything that was connected with converting a DC input from a battery into 9.6 volts. It's no longer needed because with the new standard type of wall wart connector and my own little power supply circuit, I get by just fine. There is enough room in here to put a 12 volt battery, lead acid, or lithium ion if I really want, but I'm not going to use this as a portable unit. And if I did, I have the 12 volt DC connector, and I have 12 volt batteries, and just run them external to the unit. Another improvement that I made was the on-off switch. I was finding a blue wire that I didn't know what in the heck it was. It turns out that it went to one side of the volume control on-off switch, and the other side of it went to ground. So originally, you'd switch this unit on and off by switching ground in and out, but I added an extra wire, and now I have power going, 12 volts going to this on-off switch. Another improvement. And I just left the ground connection floating down in there where it won't touch anything. Another thing that I did was the lighting. It had incandescent bulbs. None were burned out. They were fine, but I put in LEDs. And let me turn off this light, and I'll turn on the power, and you can see that it's on all the time, which is nice for low light environments. But I also put in a brightness switch. So the old turn on the display light is now a turn on the display a lot brighter. And with the LEDs, it was 330 ohms, made the perfect brightness for 9.6 volts, and I put 3.3K going to power so that they're on all the time across the switch. Doesn't take a lot of intelligence to figure out exactly how to do it, but now it's 9.6 volts going to 330 ohms on each LED, and then all the time you have 3,000 going to the LEDs. So I now have my dial light exactly the way that I had discussed in the first part of the video. Now the other thing that I did, of course, was to add audio level out that I can send to an external receiver. I spent a lot of time trying to find distorted distorted audio, and the problem with that was that it was distorted in all sections of the audio. I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I finally tapped off of tap number 13, which is as close to the beginning of the audio as you can get in this receiver without bypassing important functions. And it provides a very clean, very nice audio. It's not distorted at all. There's no crossover notch. There's nothing. It's just beautiful mono audio that I send off to an external receiver that I have set up in the lab. And that's about it. Other than that, I really didn't do any changes to the RF. I am going to have to do some real work on all of these that I have, even the ones that work, to get all the bands working. The band switches are the weakness of this unit. They get dirty and they get black, and I'm going to have to disassemble every one of those band switches and get in there and clean them out. The spray cleaners just haven't done it. But other than that, I'm really satisfied with the performance of this unit. And with that said, let's get into it. 550 KTSA San Antonio, 590A KLBJ Austin, 590B from Mexico, 630 from San Antonio, 680 from San Antonio, 720 from San Antonio, 760 from San Antonio, 820 from Fort Worth. Guys, fix your signal. 1030 from Corpus Christi, 1200 from San Antonio, 1220 from Madisonville, 1440 from Livingston. This also demonstrates the selectivity of this receiver. It's knife sharp because there's the local 1430 next to it. Comes from these 4 little red ceramic filters right here. And yes, I did pick and select them to all match in frequency. 1620 from College Station. This is as far as I can go because the active antenna only tunes to 1600. And so that's it, a nice little receiver for the money, which wasn't very much. And I now have an interesting hobby trying to fix the remaining 2. Don't know if I'll sell them or not. They don't have covers, so that'd be awful difficult. But for the right buyer that is just interested in the receiver for the performance, perhaps. Also don't have matching knobs. These were parts units. They didn't come with much. But they are fairly easy to work on. I found out that if you remove a clamp, you can pull the band spread shaft out of the unit, and you can take 3 screws out and you can get access to the band switches. So that's easy. And I didn't figure that out until I had disassembled the front panel on all of them and had to work on restringing the dial string. It really helps if when you're reassembling it, you manually loop 4 turns around that shaft before you put the front panel together. Then that makes stringing the dial a whole lot easier. The other thing I did, I forgot to mention, is I've disabled this band spread switch. Since all it does is tune the oscillator, the further you tune off the oscillator, the worse the sensitivity gets. I think that's as close to a bad design as you can possibly get. So I want nothing to do with a receiver that loses sensitivity as you turn the band spread. So I just disabled that function.